Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into Charles Dickens' classic, A Christmas Carol, but we're going to look at it through a really interesting lens. Think of it as the story of a man whose entire life was audited in one single terrifying night.
So let's just start with a quote so cold it could practically freeze fire. These are the actual words of our main character, Ebenezer Scrooge, on Christmas Eve, no less. It's just a shocking thing to say, and it perfectly sums up the massive spiritual debt he's racked up.
So, who exactly was this guy? Let's take a look at Scrooge's starting point. A man whose financial ledger was just overflowing with gold, but whose life ledger? Well, that was completely empty of warmth, kindness, or any real human connection.
You see, Scrooge was making these small, daily withdrawals from his own account of humanity. He wasn't just cheap, he was genuinely cruel. I mean, he let his own clerk Bob Cratchit shiver in the cold, he totally scoffed at his nephew's invitation to Christmas dinner, and he dismissed the poor as nothing more than a surplus population. To him, people were just numbers on a balance sheet, and his own was deeply, deeply in the red.
You know, every story about big change needs that one moment, that catalyst. For Scrooge, that catalyst showed up as the ghost of his old business partner, Jacob Marley, who's been dead for 7 years, and he comes with a really urgent warning.
So, Marley is literally wrapped in a chain made from the very things he cared about in life. Cash boxes, keys, ledgers. It's a physical representation of his greed. And he warns Scrooge, hey, your chain is already 7 years longer and heavier than mine. This isn't just some spooky ghost story. It's the official announcement of a supernatural audit. Scrooge is being given one last chance to balance his books.
And so, the first audit begins. The ghost of Christmas past shows up to force Scrooge to look at the entries from his early life. You know, the ones he's tried so hard to forget.
Now, this isn't just a nostalgic trip down memory lane. This is a full-on examination of how his spiritual accounts went from credit to debit. He sees himself as a lonely little boy only saved by the love of his sister. He gets to relive the pure joy of working for his old boss, Fezziwig, and then the critical moment. He has to watch his fiancée, Belle, leave him, telling him that a golden idol, money, has completely replaced her in his heart.
And here's where it gets interesting. As the spirit sort of questions how little Fezziwig's party actually cost, Scrooge himself jumps in to defend his old boss. He argues that the power to create happiness is priceless, that Fezziwig's kindness was worth a gold mine, and in that one instant, he realizes his own total failure with his clerk, Bob Cratchit. It's the very first deposit of empathy he's made in years.
Okay, next up is the second spirit, the ghost of Christmas present. He arrives to show Scrooge the current state of his accounts, and not just his, but the accounts of everyone around him.
The spirit shows him this incredibly powerful contrast. On one side, you have Scrooge, eating a sad, lonely meal in a cold, dark house surrounded by his money. And on the other, you have the Cratchit family. They're dirt poor, sharing a tiny goose, but their home is just overflowing with love and joy and gratitude. The spirit is basically holding up a mirror and saying, this is what real wealth looks like.
And for the first time in a long, long time, Scrooge actually feels a real concern for someone else. He's watching the frail but super cheerful Tiny Tim, and he asks the spirit a question that shows the first real crack in his icy heart. Will the boy survive?
And the spirit turns Scrooge's own monstrous words right back at him. Oof, Scrooge is just filled with shame. He's forced to confront the sheer cruelty of his own philosophy. The spirit basically asks him, what right do you have to decide who's surplus, when, in the eyes of heaven, you might be less worthy to live than millions of people just like Tiny Tim? This audit has just become deeply personal and very painful.
And now for the final projection. The silent, terrifying ghost of Christmas future arrives. He's here to show Scrooge the final calculation, the bottom line, the inevitable outcome if he doesn't change his ways.
Yeah, this isn't a forecast. It's the final invoice for a life completely misspent. Scrooge overhears businessmen joking that they'd only go to his funeral if there's free lunch. He sees his own servants stealing his bed curtains. The final balance of his entire life is zero. He leaves behind no love, no legacy, just a forgotten, weedy grave with his name on it.
But then he wakes up. It's Christmas morning. The audit is complete, and all that terror just washes away and is replaced by pure, bubbling joy. Scrooge has been given a second chance, a chance to reopen his books and start making some brand new entries.
And he does not waste a single second. He immediately starts making these massive deposits of kindness. He sends the biggest turkey in the shop to the Cratchits, he makes a huge donation to charity, he joyfully goes to his nephew's party, and he gives Bob Cratchit a huge raise. He is actively and joyfully rewriting the story of his life.
And this brings us to the core lesson of the whole story, the soul's ledger. Scrooge finally gets it. A life measured in pounds and shillings is totally worthless when it comes to the final accounting. The true measure of a life is found in the deposits of kindness, compassion, and joy we make in the lives of other people. That is the only currency that has any real, eternal value.
And that is the ultimate paradox of this story, isn't it? By giving his money away, Scrooge becomes infinitely richer than he ever was before. He gets the Cratchits' gratitude, he becomes like a second father to Tiny Tim, and he finally gains the family he had pushed away for so long. He basically traded worthless gold for priceless human connection.
Ultimately, A Christmas Carol isn't just a holiday story. It's a powerful reminder for all of us to check our own interpersonal account books every once in a while. It leaves us with a really simple but profound question. What's written in your own soul's ledger? Thanks for joining me for this one.